by Riverside.
All right, we're back. We got another great episode for you. We got a special guest. We've got Brendan, do I call you the president, the founder, the Long Island Metropolitan Lacrosse League, which is adapted from the great John Pappas's Cantiague Summer League for many, many years. And we got the great Brendan Wallace.
Yeah, Brendan.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
I wanted to give him some clapping. Oh, there we go. Now we got it. And then high tech. So, Brendan, how long has the league, now this would be what year? Because I know wasn't there like a 50th year celebration or something at one point?
Yeah, we had 2 years ago we had a 45th.
45th, okay.
45th,
wow.
Yeah. So this summer is going to actually be the 47th year.
Wow.
The league has been in existence, and it would have been 48 except for we had to skip that year for COVID.
Okay.
Yes,
Right.
So we didn't have a league that year. But yeah, so it's still going strong. I call it the Long Island Metro Lacrosse Leagues because I do some other leagues as well. But this is this is the flagship league, formerly known as the Cantiague Lacrosse League, as we all know it, and I still use that title as well. I will not give that up.
It's funny on this. I think Vinny actually played in the very first year of the league. I think. Did you, Vin?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the first
Wow.
year. Obviously back then the league that everybody played in was Freeport. That was run at that time by Tom Flatley and John Phillips. Kind of had control of that and ran that league, which was a Saturday and Sunday league. And,
Right.
Not everybody wanted to play on Saturday and Sunday and always kind of wished that there was something at night during the week. And then I guess it was John Pappas came up with it and, secured the fields at Cantiague. And, that started it. And it was a tremendous league. I mean, there were some teams, the better teams that played in Freeport also had another team there.
Yeah.
And I happened to be on a really good team, sponsored by, if you remember, Chris Deeks, of course. He at the time had he coached me at Hofstra. He had the store Lacrosse Country at the time. He was one of the first custom stick guys and uniforms, and he did all of that right on Covert Avenue by Sewanaka High School. And Chris sponsored us. We had a great team. We were pretty much the Long Island Lacrosse Club, Tommy Postel was still playing, and Ronnie Frazier, and we played Manhasset, who had a great team, in the finals the first year of it, and we beat them. So we were the first champs.
Do you remember, Vin? Do you remember how many teams there were back then?
I think that initial year, I want to say there were like 10 teams, maybe 2 divisions, 5 in each. And then the winner of the 2 divisions played each other for the championship.
Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty big back then. Well, I know
Yeah.
over the years, it's had ups and downs. From I can remember, as a high school player, and this is important for any high school person that might be listening. When I was a high school player and you're coming out of high school, it was really exciting to test your game against. You knew you were going to be playing against college guys, and in many cases club guys. You were playing against top level guys. So as a young player, it was great to test yourself, especially if you were going, if you had ambitions or you were set to play in college that fall. If you were going to go in as a freshman on some team, it was exciting to say, wow, this is the level, and see what the speed is like, and really get a feel of how your game fit at that next level. And there was no better league to do that in than Cantiague. That really was where guys did it, and that was a credit to John Pappas and you continuing that going. So like in your years since you've picked it up, I know it's grown even more in terms of the team.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly just go through a really quick brief history. I mean, 1978, that was the first year it started. And I actually played in it myself a couple, if not the first year, it was 1 or 2 years later, because I graduated high school in 1975. So I was still playing club lacrosse at the time. So this gave me an outlet in the summer. So I played with a local Hicksville team, and we combined with a bunch of guys from Massapequa. But I played in it for, probably good 10 years, and then I started officiating for John in the league. And then shortly after that, I was assigning for him as well as officiating. I mean, there were over 50 teams in probably 3 or 4 different divisions, and then he also had an over 50. He had the Masters and the Grandmasters he used to run.
Right.
And he used to actually he needed to use Mitchell Field as an extra field, and he used that for the Masters and the Grandmasters divisions. But then John got, as he got on, he's getting older, he's getting tired, and I at the time was pretty much his right hand man, and I was just a perfect fit. He knew I wanted to keep the league going. That was my goal. And there were people knocking on his door, offering him a lot of money, and all they wanted was that field time. With all the club lacrosse and stuff going on, they just wanted the fields for field time. But I wanted to keep the league going. That was my goal, and it will be as long as I have it.
Well, you stole the league, Brendan. Just say you
Hopefully,
stole
I
it.
do move on. I'm going to, pass it on to somebody who'll do the same thing. So, I mean,
Well,
it's a
you
great
did more than take it. You've expanded it. You've expanded it.
And I mean, I get such positive feedback from these kids, and it's pretty funny. I mean, just the other day at Hofstra, 30 or 40, all I kept hearing was, "Hey, Mr. Wallace, hey, Mr. Wallace, what's up? We're going to play this year. We're playing, So, yeah, a couple of things I did want to mention is we actually have 5 past Tewarton Award winners that played in the league. I mean, forget about probably the hundreds of All-Americans,
Right.
but 5 Tewarton Awards. I mean, I don't know if you want to try to guess.
But we were on the questions.
Yeah,
No.
do you guys know who the 5
We were
Tewarton
on-
Award winners are?
I can get a couple. I know physically I saw Brendan O'Neill play
Okay,
down
what
there.
are they?
Okay.
So definitely Brendan O'Neill is definitely one.
Yeah. All right. Of
How about the
course.
Irish kid? The 2 Irish kids from Notre
Pat
Dame.
Cavanaugh. Pat Cavanaugh is
No.
2.
He
No?
he didn't play in the league. We called him. We called him. He didn't play in the league. He told us he
Okay.
didn't play, so we couldn't include him.
Okay. Max Seibold is definitely
Dylan-
one.
We couldn't confirm him either. I don't know why, but I said, what about Max? But,
Yeah.
All right, so I tell you who we got.
Dylan Malloy.
Yes, Dylan Malloy. All right.
Okay.
Of course, Brendan O'Neill. You guys are forgetting the Cornell guy,
Pinnell.
Pennell. Right?
At
Oh,
3.
Ralph played. Okay.
And then the assistant at Duke now. And he played at Duke.
Oh, Danowski.
Matt, right?
Oh, Matt Danowski. Yeah.
And I think one of the first
Yeah.
was Doug Shanahan.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. Yeah, that would go way back.
Yeah.
He won the first. He
I
won
would
the first
almost-
Marathon Award, but he played that.
I would be surprised if Max didn't play.
Yeah.
That would
I
be a surprise.
told Matt to I was one of the ones that I thought of too. You had to give him a call. Maybe he couldn't get in touch with them. Some of these guys we can't get in touch with.
Right.
But anyhow, yeah. So,
Yeah, I don't know how many leagues can brag about that. That's for sure.
yeah. And then as you guys know, I mean, before the MLL started, all of those guys who went and played pro, because now when they play pro, they won't let you play in any summer leagues. So all of those
Right.
pro guys, they would have been playing in the summer league.
No doubt.
But still, I mean, over the last 5 years, I've had between 40 and 50 teams each summer. So it's doing really well. And I just wanted, to get the word out, that the league starts June 9th. And, I pretty much take teams, I leave it open until like almost the Friday before that first game. We always start on a Tuesday night. So
Do you, one of the things that you've done in the league that I think is a build on even from the past, when you arrive compared to the old days, you have all the setups there, you got the trainers, that's definitely something, back in the day,
right.
we never had, I mean, so again, it's another example. And obviously the fields are so much better, the years where it was not turf, it was Astro dirt,
Astro
It was a
dirt.
dust bowl.
Yeah.
It was a complete dust bowl.
Yeah.
Remember that, Smalley?
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, you
The
would
bar
come
yellow,
home-
I mean,
You
like
could
one
come
yellow,
home
bar
caked.
yellow.
You would literally come home caked in mud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was
was like a
bad.
mud bath.
It was bad. Yeah.
But with the turf and with all of is that like? Did you make an arrangement like the training staff is like partners? Who
Yes.
are they? We should mention them.
Yeah, I thank you. So Orland and Cohen, Orland and Cohen. I mean, they're big athletic, orthopedic and training facility. I have a partnership with them, and they provide trainers. I give them, advertising. They get players of the game and players of the week, and quite frankly, it's a beneficial relationship to both of us. I mean, unfortunately, they do get a lot of customers because anybody that gets hurt down there, they immediately have an appointment that next day. Okay.
Wow.
With one of their doctors based upon where they're from, because Orland and Cohen is all over Long Island. So so it works out really well. But like no other, I don't think any other league, if they do, I'm not aware of it, really has trainers on site. I mean, I have an AED on site. That's something new that we have, but the trainers all have them as well. So that kind of differentiates our league from other leagues. So.
The other thing that you've done great with is the social media. I know that there's a big following, and it's the kids get into it for sure. But
yeah, the kids love it. I mean, all the teams have their own Instagram account, and so we always show highlights. We show players of the games every night, and the kids all love it. They love it. I mean, I think it's been one of the biggest like marketing that helped me make the league bigger and more popular, because that's the way it is now.
Who's helping you with that? Because you hardly can work a speaker. How are you going to work a whole social media empire?
Well, I have my right hand man is my buddy Matt Curcio.
Okay.
He does a real lot for me, and he's very good at it. And he does a great job. I mean, I don't need anybody else at this time, because he takes he's down there every night just as I am, And if he's not down there, we have we'll get somebody else to do it. I have a couple of videographers that'll come in and step in for a night.
Brendan, what does it cost there? Do you want to tell us on the air? Or you just want to leave it up to go online and?
No, I don't have a problem telling everybody because listen, my biggest competitor, and I don't even consider them a competitor, is ULAX. When you break it down, I'm actually cheaper than them because I charge by the team. So you can have a 25 guy roster, and when you do the numbers, it's cheaper to play on that team than it is to play for ULAX. But my team fee is $3,500, and right now I have an early registration discount of $200 if you register and get me a deposit before May 31st. So you register online. You go to it's limll.org. That's our website. I use Team Snap on the back end to host my site and to run my leagues, and they can just go on, register, and we'll take care of the money on the back end as well. But yeah, it seemed to work out. John did things the old-fashioned way, and I try to maintain that. I'm very, very flexible with rescheduling games with a lot of these teams where, you get 6 regular season games. And if you're fortunate enough to make the playoffs and you go to the finals, you'll get another 3 games, and those are on the cuff. Those are included in your registration fee. So, it's really cheap when you look at it. You get like 25 kids, and each kid throws in $150 for a summer league. It's not that much at all.
It's 2 beers at the bar. 2 beers at the bar.
And it's an investment in their game. Listen, the idea, if you're a lacrosse player, you got to be playing lacrosse, and if you're not, you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you're missing. It's everybody gets into training and wanting the nutrition and doing all of those things, but you only get limited chances to play, and and as a young guy, if you're just coming out or you're a first or second year college guy that may not play that much, who knows, how often do you get a chance to really get these kind of games and game experience? This is an opportunity to try things. The other thing is when if you're playing somewhere in college and they hamstring you, got a coach hamstringing you, doesn't allow you to do anything, you might try a different position. You might try different things that you wouldn't normally be able to try at your college team and experiment with your game. So, it's
yeah, to that point, there are a lot of teams that are mostly consist of their college teammates.
Right.
I think I just talked to Justin Maharis from the New York Maritime School, and he's putting in a team. And then there's a team, Western Connecticut. They have a team. So sometimes the coach will, he wants these guys to play in the summer league. So they put the team in. And, I know the WestCon guys, they practically wear their uniforms. They're all wearing their helmets. And then, then you always have a bunch of Chaminade kids will get together, and a bunch of St. Anthony's kids. They'll put now they're going to different schools throughout the countries, but now they get together in the summer and they hang out with their friends and all have a good time.
Right.
Yeah, the most.
You got Mr. Shaman. You got Mr. Chaminade here.
Absolutely.
The most consistent team has been, Fleesters. They've been one of the originals, I guess. Billy Redmond's team.
Yep, Billy Redmond. The Fleesters. According to him, they've been in the league since the beginning, and I believe
I
him.
believe so.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean he heavily recruits those Manhasset, Garden City kids. A lot of Chaminades. Yeah,
Yeah, he
Yeah,
has good
it's
teams.
funny. That was one of our greatest rivals when we were playing with Harvey's, to play
was Fleeson,
Fleeces.
right?
Yeah, that was always a big,
Big
and
game.
that's fun too when you get when you get some consistency in the rosters and that some rivalries could get built. I know my nephews, they had what was the team, Vin, the Chili Willies or whatever. They always had
Chili Willies, yeah.
they had a strong rivalry with other teams and strong teams. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun and competitive, which is what everybody's chasing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you got to give our Massmont team a shout out. We
Yeah,
won
that would
5 years in a row in the little
Right.
not in
Yeah.
the open, but in the 30 and older.
Which was a combination of Massapequa and Elmont guys, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember those guys, and you guys they even played it when we had the Masters and the Grandmasters. They were playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now the question: did Smalley ever play in the league?
that's a good
One
question.
year. 1 year.
Let me tell you something. I'll answer that. Let me answer that. While we were over there running around playing, Smalley was 2 fields over, hitting monster home runs in softball at Cantiague. Every time a ball got hit onto the lacrosse field, it was Smalley hitting them onto the lacrosse
Is that
field.
true? Is that true,
That's-
Smalls?
I hit 4 out one game. Yeah, pretty true. Pretty true.
With county sports, they,
I'm actually looking at this score right now. The Knicks are up 38-25.
okay,
I got a little bit of money on the game, so I had to
okay.
put that in there.
but
Anyway,
but hey, Rob, did you play for county sports, the softball team?
no, County, no.
They were good.
That was a little bit more. They were the best team ever, County Sports. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Big Jim Galloway, Bertie Smith, the Big O, Oscar on first base, Bobby Lombardi in the outfield.
Oh
I
wow.
go through the whole skit, yeah. It was like
Louis
home run
Russo.
derby back then. That's when Baldwin had the big, had the 4 parks. Remember that? Every 4 fields, every field was a softball park. Softball field, yeah. That's when the lacrosse wasn't even really. It was. When did the league start? You said.
78.
Yeah, they were playing before that.
I'm sure.
Softball was huge on the island. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
they used
so
to play.
Smalley-
They used to play out in Long Beach. I mean, in Jones Beach League.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, they used to
Guys
play
got
out.
so big, the fields, everybody get in a home run.
Yeah,
Everybody,
those guys-
even me.
So Smalley talked about the changes in the park. One of the changes I noticed that I think we need to talk about is, I guess the dedication
Oh, yeah.
for the John Pappas Memorial. I know. I think it's the thing in the front by the 2 fields.
Right. So as you may or may not know, after John passed away, I won't take credit for the idea, but a couple of people approached me, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I put a committee together, and actually Billy Redmond's on it, John Calabria. I have Mark Lamar, who was one of John's really good friends and worked for the county as well at Cantiague Park, and Tony Barone. So there's the 5 of us on the committee. So we got together, and what started as a small thing and ended up getting to be bigger and bigger. And we really put together a nice memorial for him. All right, and it is complete, except I'm having pavers put in. People were able to purchase custom pavers, and they still have to go in. And I mean, people can still buy pavers if they want. I'll get them made up and I'll have them put in. But on June on June 26th, it's a Friday night. We're going to have the John Pappas Memorial and the Celebration of Life ceremony, and we're going to dedicate the memorial. And I mean, we're going to have it. We're going all out. I got the showmobile from the county, one of those showmobiles.
Nice.
I got all the dignitaries coming down. It starts at 5 p.m. and it'll just be a couple of hours. I'm having it fully catered. All right.
Wow.
So it's going to be fully catered, and then at 7, I think 7 and 8 o'clock, I may have some youth lacrosse games going on, so I can get some traffic coming in and out. But his family is coming in. He's got a lot of his family now is out of state, so they're coming in for the weekend. So we're going to have it on Friday night, and it's going to be a special night. And it really came out really, really nice. I know when you walk up to the fields, there's the flagpole. So there's a little island there, and I don't know if you guys ever noticed it, but it's shaped like a lacrosse head. I mean, how unbelievable that it just happened to be. That's where we decided to put it. And this little cutout is like a little island. It's shaped like the lacrosse head of a stick. So we have a big rock with a plaque. We got some granite benches, and we got a walkway, and I got it all landscaped, and it's pretty nice. I'm pretty proud of it.
Very nice.
Yeah, the committee, we put a lot of time into it. We spent it took us like almost 3 years to get it done. So finally, we're going to have this dedication ceremony and a celebration of his life.
What do you got,
And
lobster?
I'm
What does
really
that
looking
tell us?
forward to that. Again, it's on
do you got
June
coming for the
26th.
food?
It's a Friday
I'm a
night,
big food
5
guy.
o'clock.
Who's the caterer, Brendan?
Yeah, don't eat dinner. Come on down.
Don't worry, I won't.
Yeah, we'll have like I said, I think the politicians, if Blakeman can make it, he'll be there. But I don't know. You guys know Rose Walker. You know Rose Walker? She's
Yeah.
I know Bob Walker.
Yeah.
well, Rose is she's the District 17 congresswoman, and she's actually which is the coach at Manhasset. He played at Rutgers.
Cromwell.
Yeah,
Keith
that's
Cromwell.
Cromwell's
It's
mother-in-law.
Cromwell's mother-in-law. Right.
Right. All right.
Didn't you get Bruce Blakeman? He got Joe Cairo, Bruce Blakeman? Oh, man, he sits at every table.
Oh yeah, Cairo, Joe will come down. Everybody's invited. They're all invited. I don't know who's coming, but it should be a fun night. And then we might have. I'm pretty certain we may go down to maybe BK Sweeney's and Bethpage afterwards, for anybody else that wants to
nice.
join us. So
Brendan, we gotta give his Pappas's right hand man. The other guy was there all the time, a lot of years. That Dennis Silvers, was that his name? Remember Dennis?
what was his name? Yeah, he'll be there. Yeah, he'll be
Really?
there.
Wow.
No, he did a lot of running it for John. A lot of years he was there because John couldn't stay there all. We played in the top league when it was really going, and it was the top league. We didn't play till 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
That was
They
the
played
top
it. They
league
played
played
late.
at 10. Yeah, we used to get out of there at midnight.
Well, yeah.
sometimes guys
By the
would
time you
climb
go
the
back to
fence
your
and go in
car.
They climb. Yeah, they climb the fence and go in the pool.
Oh yeah, we used to do that too. Then they put up a bigger. They put up
Yeah,
a bigger
that Dennis
fence.
Silvers was there. Yeah, I mean, look, you've made major improvements. In all fairness to Pappas and them, I mean, first of all, you got two beautiful turf fields. Those fields we played on, and the lighting was not great. it made the game interesting because depending on how dry it was, it could be a dust bowl, and then if it rained, it could be a mud bowl. And the lights were not on the individual fields. There was lights all the way to the one side and all the way to the other side. So
Right.
it was a little bit dark when we got on those sidelines. So, but it made it interesting. Everybody had to play under those conditions, but
You know what? We didn't know better back then.
no, to have the facilities they have now, these guys, they're so lucky to have these fields to play on. A guy twisted his ankle. A guy did anything back then. It was like, take him to the car, take him home. Now
Right.
you got trainers there. It's such an upgrade. It's really fantastic for these guys. Like Steven said, Steven cut his teeth there. The year before that, Petramala did, and you could go down a laundry list of all Americans, and actually, I had teams where I had as many as 5 world team players on the same team playing at Cantiague.
Sure.
So
Sure.
any night, you could see great lacrosse, And what was funny is some of the people that you play against that were maybe even a little bit lower level or whatever, they may not even know who they were playing against, and would, when they were getting killed, they didn't realize.
They didn't know who they were up against, right?
Teams.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so sometimes but it really. I think a lot of guys I know, Cantiague really improved their game, learning how to play. With anybody, you just jump in and be able to play with guys. That makes you more valuable.
Yeah. So, Steve, I don't know if you wanted to talk about what we discussed a little bit today.
Well, I always said, talking about the summer league, yeah, for sure. Let's talk about it a little bit because that's a small thing too. I always feel like that. I always hear that kids, especially when they finish playing college, that there's not as many people playing as there used to be. Obviously, when we finished college, we went right into club, and then to summer league. It would be club, and then you'd play summer league.
Right.
Now and then a lot of that changed when MLL started. That really beat up club. It beat up the old USCLA. Obviously, that dynamic changed once the MLL came into existence, and I always feel like there should be a league. A league should be formed for post-college guys that might not be PLL, but almost like a minor league, and bring back those teams. Bring back North Hempstead. Bring back Tow Bay, which was basically the Fleeceders. Bring back Suffolk. Bring back Long Island. And you have 5 or 6 teams, and you stream the game. I don't know what the best season for it is. Maybe it's fall. Maybe fall is the best season. Since the weather's always good. You start right after Labor Day and you go till it starts getting cool.
No, but you said post, like what was club. You could really maybe you probably could form like an 8-team league of guys who were not PLL ready, but are high-level players still, and want to get a good run. And maybe 8's not the number, maybe 8's a lot, maybe 6, and you play every team twice. That's 10 real good games you could probably play.
Yeah, and listen, and you professionalize it. You professionalize it with the uniforms and the streaming, and you give these an opportunity where maybe a guy develops, and maybe his next step is to the PLL. It becomes like a PLL minor league.
It's a stepping stone. It's he's still practicing. He's still playing.
So that was something. I said. That was one of a brainchild of mine that I was thinking, and I was saying to myself, if I was ever thinking to really try to organize something like this, the truth is, a guy like Brendan Wallace and the Long Island Metro Lacrosse League would be the people that would have to be really involved in it. They're the professionals from that perspective of doing it from the summer league perspective, and this would just be, carving it out for the post college guys, because again, I think a lot of guys, and maybe it's because they play too much from when they're a little kid through college, and there's so much commitment through it. It seems like some guys just take that bag and then throw it in the garage, and they never want to see a lacrosse stick again. And to me, that's a shame, because for me, it's like I'm a lifer, and you're a lifer, Vin, and Brendan's clearly a lifer. He's done it his whole life with dedicating himself to the game. I can't even imagine myself not being able to go watch a game or even still playing a game. That's why guys go to Placid, they go to Florida and still play.
Well, that's another thing, Stephen. That's another thing that came along was tournaments.
Yeah.
When I first came out, and when the league, when Cantiague first started, there were no real tournaments to go play in. Vail was actually one of the first ones, but you had to go all the way to Colorado. But then tournaments started popping up all over the place, and that gave guys another outlet to go play, know. I don't know if there are as many. I think it hit a peak, and I think it's kind of like on the downside now in terms of the tournaments. But at one point, you're competing with a lot of big tournaments that went on, Ocean City and War at the Shore, and the list went on. And Vail, of course, was a biggie that everybody looked to go to, 4th of July weekend.
You got all these club teams. That's what you have.
So I know, like as they say that more kids are playing today, and the level of play and all that kind of stuff. Where are they? Where are they just playing the summer league? Are they filling your league, Brendan? At least on Long Island. And I know I've seen there's teams that play in your league. Kids come out who maybe are working in the city and stuff. They drive out and play at Cantiague.
Yeah.
It's not just limited to the island. Going back to Freeport, there were teams used to come from Westchester to play in the Freeport League. And you went all the way out in Suffolk with teams that came. Ward Melville always had a team.
But it seems to me, this is a question for Brendan. I'm just curious what his thought is on this. Do you think that if you looked at the median age going years and years ago compared to now, it seems like the teams are generally younger?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
I mean, like when I was coming out, it seemed like everybody was a grown man. Everybody was playing men, veterans. Like these guys were veterans.
Yeah,
you get
I was
beat up
into my early 30s. I played.
Right.
And then
I know you still do have some teams that have some older guys, and there's that. But generally, I would say most of the guys are probably in college. It's probably more in college than guys out of college.
Definitely, that's the higher percentage, without a doubt. Yep. Yeah.
Well, the guys who played, when I came out of college, was in college and just out of college in those next few years. Most of those guys that I played with would be in the PLL today.
Right. Yeah. Right.
There'd be a whole bunch of us that would be playing in the PLL.
Right.
So, but absent a pro league, that was the place. Those were the places to play if you wanted to test yourself and really just have fun, And I liked it when it was, and I see it. It seems to be the teams I see in your league now, Brendan. They are from specific towns. A lot of them. I see like the Cary guys are together.
Right.
And, you know what I'm saying? I've seen a bunch of guys that are now Flea has always had, he's a hired gun. Flea's got guys. He gets guys from everywhere. He's recruiting. But I've seen, more and more of your league the way I see the helmets are the same, and they're guys who went to the same high school or they went to the same college. Yeah. Different years, and some guys are already out. Some guys are just going in.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look, the bottom line is when I go there, I see good competition, very good competition, but I also see these guys finally like letting their hair down and having fun playing lacrosse.
Oh,
they don't have a coach on a sideline screaming at them, and it's not life and death. They want to win, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they play and have a good time. It's like the first time they can relax and just play the game.
Yeah. There's a Port Washington team. They call themselves the Blue Dream. I was talking to Steve about them this afternoon or this morning, but they're like they have so much fun, and they have their own Instagram account, and they and they're good. They compete every year. They're one of the top teams, and they haven't signed up yet, but I expect them to be back.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Listen, I know that there's a whole crop of seniors probably looking to come out and play. And,
Right.
I guess the message is, again, I think for any young player, if you're a kid who's a senior going to college next year, whether you're playing at Division I, Division II, Division III, even club, even if you're playing on your college club team, you want to better your game. You can only better your game playing against guys, and there's no better place to do that historically than we're lucky. There's places throughout the country. Everybody loves lacrosse. They don't have leagues like this, which would have this level of competition that you could play against. So if you're not getting involved, if you're not getting on a team, the one other thing I want to say is Brendan has a free agent board there where they might be able to find you a team. So latch on, find the different teams, and if you're registering a team, get your registration in.
Yeah.
I think you said May 31st to save a few $100. And when did you say the first week of games would start? What would be the first week of
June
games?
June 9th.
June what?
Yeah, I think that's
9th.
Tuesday, right? Yeah, June 9th is
July?
9th.
June 9th.
Yes.
Wow. Our kids are not even out of school yet, are they? June?
Yeah. Well, I could push it off. I'm just waiting. But
High school kids.
set it up.
These you can't wait around for the high school kids to get out.
Well, that's
Their
the thing.
season's
I guess because the schedule, because a lot of times with the summer league, that was the other thing. Kids never went to college so early. They go to college in July now.
Oh yeah.
I guess if you don't start earlier.
The high school kids are still in school. Oh, 100%.
Right.
But they're done playing. They can still,
Right, they're done playing.
They're done playing.
Right.
So they can jump on a team. That's
Yeah.
what they do. They
Right.
jump on a team.
Yep. All right. Well, that's the
All
thing.
right.
You gotta get yourself out there. Get yourself registered and get yourself playing. Brendan, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
appreciate
guys.
that.
I really appreciate what you guys do.
And we're gonna see you because we got our alley pong guys coming. We're
Hey,
coming.
We get a team in there for you.
Yeah.
All right, sign 'em up. Sign 'em up.
Bring our
And
guys
Stephen will post this with the dates and all. He'll post onto the
Yeah.
Three Guys
All right.
Playing Games account. He'll put up the dates for the dedication and that kind of stuff.
All right, awesome. Thanks so
And-
much, guys. I really
And
appreciate
just
it.
hang on, Brendan. We'll be right when everybody else will be right back.
Okay.
Second half of the Nick game is up.
All right. So then
All right.
wrap
Watch
yourself
from
up
what?
quick.
I'm just saying they actually came back. There was like a 13.
All right. We're back. We're back.
Back.
Big week of lacrosse. This might have been the biggest week yet. It's hard to imagine. It started on Wednesday with the Catholic League Championship game, Chaminade and St. Anthony's. We were there. That was quite a battle. Same result. Anthony's had that run in the third quarter that they usually do. And this time, Chaminade closed the gap, though. They really did come on and really give it to the last second an attempt to tie that game. It just didn't go that
What do
way.
you think it is? Coaching? Are they just, is it like they're spooked by some like Halloween fantasy dude?
What do you say,
you
Ben?
got-
What do you say?
Or is it just a
Well,
choke job?
when you're saying, I think that made it 7 in a row that they've won. They've been numerous, in that 7 years, there's been an overtime game, couple of one-goal games. So, the margin is very, very slim. But when you lose, you still lose, right? But,
What, 7
Chaminade
losses in a row?
Chaminade has had a lot of talent, and some great teams. But, you know, you did have in that 7-year run, you had at St. Anthony's, Brennan O'Neill. We all know
Yeah,
what he's gone on to
exactly.
do. You had
Right.
McAdory, and they were on the same team, you know. And
Leo.
the last time Chaminade won was when Kavanaugh scored a goal to win the game. So there haven't been any Kavanaughs after that. Chaminade
Well, Billy,
has,
what is it?
has
You're
back-
the expert. What is it? Is it coaching? Give what you think it is. You watch the games.
I think
It's got to be coaching.
I-
Is it parents? Are parents
I don't think
Well,
it's
the parents, unless they're going to go pick up a ground ball, I don't know how it could be parents.
No,
but
I mean,
you know,
look,
play kids.
I don't know that
You
it's
gotta put kids in.
I don't know that it's either one. That's sports. Sometimes the breaks don't go your way. You know, I thought the game the other day was hard fought. I thought Chaminade, you know, had every chance. They had a 3-goal lead, I think, at half, right? Weren't they up 3 at half?
yeah.
They didn't score in the third
and-
quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched the game a couple of times, and you know, they had some bad luck. The other team got it when they were in their run in the third quarter. They got a rebound goal. A guy hit, you know, goalie didn't control the shot, and it popped out of his stick, and the guy knocked it in. And then right after that, a guy picked off a pass for Chaminade, a pole, made a nice play intercepting it. But as he ran behind, they hustled and doubled him, and it popped out of his stick, and they got a layup. You know, this all happened in those runs. And this has been where Chaminade, I think there's a little bit, you know, they lost focus maybe. It's just the
wasted
ball is
shots,
not
man.
bouncing their way in these games against
Also,
St.
wasted
Anthony's.
shots. Guys are coming down, shooting the ball with no
We
angles.
we could criticize all the bad plays they made, you know, but they did make a lot of good plays too. You know, they didn't maybe have their very best effort, but again, it was a 13-12 game, and they had a chance, you know, off a face-off with little over a minute to go. The face-off guy, you know, he's trying to make a play. Was it the right play? You could criticize it. You know, he's trying, the kid. You know, I'm not going to blame the game on the face-off guy who took a shot, but he took a shot. And then, you know, I actually had the conversation with the ref, you know, about why, you know, he went down with a cramp and the ball went up the field, and there was whether or not St. Anthony's got basically what amounted to an extra timeout because they used an injury timeout. You know, you could cry over spilled milk, but that's not the way to do it. You just suck it up, you come back, you watch the video of your previous games, and you try to get your team to be more focused and not to make those little mistakes that cost you a game. Because in 1 and 2, I mean, even the first game of this year, we were at the game, right, Smalls? We were at Chaminade. They were leading at halftime in that game. And then the other team came out, the face-off guy scores back-to-back, you know, makes plays. You know, he scores a goal. Not only does he win the face-off, score the goal, he gets hit late, so Chaminade goes man down. They score again, they get the ball again, and now they're on a 3-goal run again. That's been what's happened to Chaminade. So whether you want to say it's coaching, you want to say lack of focus, you know.
So then the other team is playing better as a team.
I got to agree with Smalley on that. And I was
They
just
made the
thinking the
plays.
same thing.
They made the plays when they had to make the plays.
Yeah, but you know, usually what it comes down to is that you get into that team culture mentality, and I think St. Anthony's does have a very good formula of how they share the ball, where they're very effective. And I thought their polls were the difference in the game. They're very good on defense. They pick up a lot of balls and they harass guys. They were very good on defense. I thought that was the difference in the
It's
game.
more team orientated, you could say. Between the parents club there, and 7 years of winning. It's got to be something why they're winning. Parents, start with the parents, start with the kids, getting along better, whatever like that. 7 years, there's got to be something there to it. It can't just be, oh, the kid didn't do this.
Well, but it's small margins, Smalls. It's not as low
Doesn't
like, you know,
matter,
these
small
games are
margins.
very, very tight.
You know, it's not a game where you're going to blow teams out by 20 goals. You know?
Right.
Why are they doing it every year, though? Why is it always by one, the same thing every year?
I know
Well,
he's
if you
upset
go
about
back,
it.
there's been
He's
times.
very upset, Vin.
There's been
He's very
times when
upset.
Chaminade, before you became
What are you
Mr.
talking about? I see
Chaminade and
late
got
people out.
involved back in
I'm an independent here.
before you got involved in your father's high school again, there were years when Chaminade went on a run and won 4 and 5 years in a row. It happened, and you
I'd
couldn't,
like to see the
I wouldn't pick
Chaminade
them apart.
parents a little more humble. How about that? I'll start
No,
with
he's
that.
blaming the parents.
No, I'm blaming everybody.
Well, listen,
You
that's a
start
good
losing,
team,
so what are
man.
you going to lose? 3 more years in a row? 10 years of losing? Something's got to change. Something's got to change. You got to talk about it.
How do you mean?
As
What do
the
you
first
mean?
team change.
You got to explain this. You got to explain this to me. What do you mean by humble?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what do I mean by humble? Getting along, not being selfish on the team. Selfishness. You saw it too. You guys won't
So you-
call it out. You guys are like
so
Bill
you
on the
think the
road. You're
players-
afraid to say anything. Don't say anything.
You think
Don't
that?
call
So
anything
so
out that you
all
see.
right. So you're saying you think the players were selfish?
I'm saying it starts with everything. You can't lose 7 years in a row and not pick something out that's real. You know, pick something out. Give me something that's
Something is.
real.
I'll give you something real.
Yeah.
Maybe St.
They've had better
Anthony's
players.
draws. They got better players. That's right. They draw from maybe a slightly bigger area of more quality players. You know, and they develop
You
them
know,
well.
listen.
And
You're
they're
counting
doing it
this
right
year,
now a
you
little
know,
bit better.
Yes, it's 7 years in a row. Last year they split the games. The years before they used to play 3 times. Sometimes they split and then say, but St. Anthony's is winning when it matters. For them to win 7
Well,
years
this
in
is
a
what
row,
I hear from
you
other
got to
people.
give
I
them
won't
credit.
include you two guys. I don't mean to talk over you, but here's what I hear from other people. Coaching is better over there. By far. That's what I hear from other people. I'm not the expert. You guys have been playing this game 1,000 years. Sitting here, I hear from tons of other people. Can you bring somebody else in that's been playing? That's what I hear. And from numerous amounts of people. When are we going to get coaching? I hear it from the parents. I hear it from everybody there. If they
Well,
all
this
want
was-
to write
this-
on the...
This was a unique year because you had basically, other than Thomas who was back and the new head coach, you know, you had a new staff basically in different responsibilities. You know, so the fact that they've played, you know, and to Chaminade's credit, let's give good and bad. They didn't maybe get the most out of what they had. You could argue that. I think, you know, I think they would probably admit to that. But
You have to be
again,
an unselfish player. Too much selfishness going on. It's all about me, ball. Me. That's what it's about. Got to grow.
well, I saw them play all season. They didn't strike me as playing too much hero ball. I think that kids get in big games and everybody wants to do the right thing and they get a little tensed up and they try to make plays and maybe they try to do too much. You know,
Yeah,
but
every parent-
it was a well played game. It was a well played game. It's a you know. it's a
I'll say
heated
this for you,
rivalry.
Smalls. I'll say this
Not every
difference.
parent calling because they want their kid to play. Everybody's writing anonymous letters. My kid. I don't know what's right or wrong, but that's got to end.
No, I would say this. Vinny mentioned that he said better players, you know, and that's very well possible. I notice it seems, at least it seemed to me, St. Anthony's might be a little bit deeper team. Maybe they have an ability to go deeper in than Chaminade was. Chaminade doesn't seem like they play too many guys. I'm not criticizing the coaching of saying they should be playing more guys or less guys or
You're
anything
saying
like
that.
that.
You're saying
No,
it.
I'm saying
Yeah,
that. I'm
already,
just saying that maybe they can't play all those guys. You know, they're making decisions based on. Does that make them going to be better and win the game?
Coaches got to be tight. They're running a tight ship over there. You got everybody calling to play. You got parents calling the administration. You got this calling that. You got
Well,
this.
they don't get that. They don't
It's
get
not
that decision.
togetherness.
You have listen as a coach. In the end of the day, in a program, it's the coach's decision of ultimately you live and die with the decisions you make of the personnel you use and put them on the field. And the coach should be given that latitude to do that. And whether it puts them on a pedestal or hangs them, that's the decisions that the guy should be able to make. I know if I was coaching a team, I'm making those decisions. I'm not letting parents influence me on that. If you're trying to have success and win games, you're going to have to make decisions. So sometimes you don't always make the right decision, but I think it's a deeper thing there. It's like you could equate it down to the all of the teams basically. So maybe St. Anthony's does a little bit better job right now developing the guys, developing the overall body of guys they have. Maybe they're drawing from a bigger area, so they're getting a better quality, slightly better. Because again, it's not like these games are blowouts or anything like that. They're very close games. The margin is small. It can be made up, but that's what I see. I see that St. Anthony's looks, like you said, they do play more. They seem more cohesive in terms of the team aspect, especially on offense.
They're on a roll. There's something to be said when you won 2, 3, 4 in a row. You just expect to win, and
Right.
maybe Chaminade is gripping the stick too tight in the fourth quarter in a 1-goal game and saying, oh, here we go again. We were ahead and now they caught up again. So maybe there's part of that. These are young guys, but they got to get past that. They got to figure out ways to win that game, because to them, that's the game that really matters.
You got to create the culture, fun, happiness, a little bit of that. I didn't see it on the Charlotte parent side. I sat there as an independent for every game I went to. You guys missed 2 games. I sat there, I watched it, and I love them all. They're the greatest, every parent. But it's all about their kid playing. There's not togetherness. Are we going to win, or do we just want to? Let's not play as many good teams and let everybody play. Let's do that then. Let's go that culture. Take all those games off the chart. Let everybody play, so we go, hey, we're all happy like that. And that's what it's about. So
I don't know. I don't know about that, but
are we going to win, or are we going to play everybody? Where do we want it?
Well, you're talking like they're a stinky team or something. In the 2 polls that just came out, they're number 10. They're number 10 in one poll, and they're number 13 in another.
Right.
And they started the year higher than that. So you could say they underachieved, but okay, you could say they underachieved. But you're bashing a whole lacrosse program. You're Mr. Chaminade, and you're bashing a whole program based on them not winning these championship games against St. Anthony's when they have one of the most successful programs in the country.
I just told you. I gave you the answer, Vinny. You're trying to pick me apart. I watched the way the parents act. And then I watched the other teams.
Why are you watching the parents acting? Why are you not watching the game?
Yeah, I watch how they act.
Maybe you should watch the game.
And I'm 100% right. You guys are too scared. I say this some more. I say this.
What am I scared? I'm not scared of anything. I'm scared.
I just told
Nobody
you
cares what you say. You made yourself Mr. Chaminade. You self-appointed yourself Mr. Chaminade.
Look at him. Where'd he go?
He ran away.
Where did he go?
He ran away. He don't want to be on now. You know what that's all about.
What is that about?
No. This is what he does. You know why?
Why?
Because he really wanted to go watch the Knick game. So that's why he created this whole thing he could do his routine.
He caused the
he
insulted everybody so he could run off.
Yeah. He's now sitting. He's sitting at all the games watching the parents. He says.
Right.
And there's no togetherness.
Right. So let's move on, Vin. We could talk about after that. Obviously, we had the big quarterfinal day at Hofstra. I mean that really was an impressive day. I mean, Long Island showed out again.
What a crowd! That's one of the biggest they ever had for the quarters, right? That's one. I mean, I think over 10,000.
At first, the tailgates were going. We made it. The Hopkins tailgate was going pretty good. Carolina was slow starting, but they turned down we didn't really make it over on the other ones as much. Poor Notre Dame, they're the Rodney Dangerfields. They stuck them in Nassau Community College. Where the heck were they?
That's all right.
You know?
They're okay with it. I think they're happy they're with themselves over there, and they came to
Well,
play.
they
They
did,
showed
you
it on the
know.
field.
But once the crowd started to get from the tailgates into the crowd, it was quite a event, and we were treated to two very good games. Hopkins, came out pretty strong. Just threw a lot of early punches. Didn't really build a lead. Probably could have scored more in that beginning. I think the Notre Dame goalie really held them down, and in a tight game, Notre Dame just too many athletes started pulling away.
Yeah, they eventually wore them down, especially on offense. One of the things going into the game, people were saying that Notre Dame was prone to some cold spells on offense this year, where they'd go a lot of minutes without scoring a goal. It happened a few times to them. I think they've solved that problem, especially since, and that was, like I said, a concern that, or when people were kicking around who they thought could win, the way Johns Hopkins played against Cornell the week before defensively, they just had a tremendous game plan. They played their butts off. They were without one of their best players, if not their best player, defensively. The guy who's a solo captain and calls out the signals,
Right.
coordinates the defense. That's a lot to lose. And then they lost a kid during the game. But, they were hanging around and they were there, but you just kind of felt like the dam was going to break because, Notre Dame's pretty athletic. When you see them, I've watched them on TV, but when you see them in person, and from our vantage point, we were sitting up there in the suite, they just look like horses coming up and down that field. They got great team speed, their stick skills. I thought they shot the ball really well, smart. I thought they not only shot well, but they shot smart. They shot high bounce shots that, on that turf, and that's a whole nother story, the turf, because people were very unhappy with all the slipping and everything else that went on at Hofstra. Hofstra, as I always believe, is the best venue there is. But, that turf was a problem. Whatever that turf that they put down, it became a
They're
problem.
going to have to address that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to want to, if they're going to want to have quarterfinal games there, they got to have a better type, or they got to, I don't know if there's a certain shoe you have to wear, because people were taught, I don't know for sure, but they were saying it was some kind of special soccer turf as opposed to a lacrosse or football turf. But clearly it impacted the game for a while. Guys were sliding all over the place.
Right.
And so you don't want that. You want the field conditions as best you can in these games that mean so much. You want to have the optimal field conditions and refereeing and everything else.
Right.
You don't want games to be won and lost by other situations that can pop up, So that was one that I think was glaring, and I think people kept saying, look at these guys. There's even the announcers, from what I understand,
Right.
talking about, the surface. But Notre Dame got it together. They pulled away in the second half, and I think most people felt that was going to be what was going to happen. Hopkins, give them credit, a great season. They had some ups and downs, but they had some huge wins. I thought, I think these coaches get criticized way too much. It's like, if you're a coach, you can't make a mistake. I mean, the referees make mistakes. The players definitely. I always tell young guys, when a kid makes a mistake and he puts his head down and I threw a bad pass and I say, go home and look at a box score of the top two teams that played this week, and tell me what the combined turnovers were. And most of the time you'll see there's somewhere close to 30 combined, in turnovers in a game. So if you have 30 mistakes by these two teams combined, you can't let one mistake when you make a play. You got to play through that. That's the important thing to understand, to make them, learn from it don't totally, guys say, forget about that one. Well, don't forget it. Learn from it. I always say learn from it. Don't forget it. Because if you forget it, you might do it again. When you see that same type of play happening, realize that what you did wrong last time and adjust,
Right.
And that's how, players get better, by learning from failure sometimes. Sometimes you learn even more from failure. But Hopkins, I thought, had a great year. Notre Dame moved on, and that was, less exciting in terms of, because they pulled away. We weren't sweating it out in the fourth quarter. But the
Right.
second game was different. The second game was really the Carolina versus Syracuse, and I saw Gary Gate on a podcast today, or just saw a clip on Instagram where I think he said it was the first time Syracuse ever played a team 3 times in a season.
Wow.
And so here they were. They had lost twice to Carolina. And I don't remember the first game as much as I remember the second game. But the second time I remember that, that face-off guy got going, Wambach. The other guy bounced back. I thought he had a pretty good game. I don't know I don't remember the stats.
The numbers looked only like a little bit like over 50% for Mullen.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it was overwhelming.
But I learned from Quint and Koch and
Yeah.
talking, and not every face-off's created equal. And
Right.
this guy got him. I mean, listen, they were down 6-2, and did he have both the goals? I don't know.
He
I
had
think
2 goals.
he had
Yeah.
2, but I don't know if he had the first 2 for them. But whatever it was, but he made those goals. Plus, he was getting the ones when they were getting momentum. That's what cuts momentum. I mean, that's partly what happened. Going back to the Chaminade game.
It's a shame. It's a shame that people. It's not to make excuses, but Duffy, not being healthy definitely affected that game.
Listen, you can pick out, no question, him 100%. It changes the game. Doesn't mean they win, but I think
Right.
it changes the game. It changes some things. I mean, even I'll give you the play we've talked about, and a lot of people talked about on Instagram. And by the way, these other podcasts, I don't remember every guy's name and all, but I think they do a fantastic job of breaking down the film. There's a lot of guys doing really good stuff, teaching the game as they're showing plays and all.
Right.
Not looking to make controversy out of it, but showing it's almost like teachable moments about how games are won and lost. But, you take
Right.
that play, that Dwan scoops the ball. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
He's running down, and he's running down the field, and Duffy is chasing him, and Duffy can't go all out. Probably a healthy Duffy runs him down there, and they got to redirect, go back, or he does get him out of bounds. But he pushes him in the back, and when he pushes him in the back, he steps out of bounds. I mean, the photo showed it, that he was out of bounds at some point in that play.
Well,
And
people were getting
they don't
crazy
blow-
because
it's
people were
no,
getting
it still would
crazy.
have been a push. What?
No, I say because they're saying, they go right to the fact of Carolina people are whining, and then the reason why I put that clip up was to just say is the use of the replay. Like they were not allowed to challenge it, and
Right.
you got to wonder in a game where you're bringing replay into something, why you would not be allowed to challenge something like that. Like
Yeah.
that's a play. That's a big, it's a big play in the game. It wouldn't have been
It's a
the
huge
best
play.
they were going to be able to do. They were going to be man down for 30 seconds, Carolina, but the score would have been tied. And
Yeah.
that's really how
know.
it should have ended up. And then you don't know what happens. But listen, they could still score 3 goals and go up 13-10 Syracuse. It could be the same thing that could happen. But I'm sure if you're given that choice, I'm sure Coach Bresci would have rather been 30 seconds
Yeah.
down
You don't
with
know.
the score.
You don't know. Yes, you don't know the momentum swing. They end up man down for 30 seconds, and Syracuse is happy about having a man up. They make a big save or something. It goes out the other way, and
Right.
Carolina scores. Now it's 11-10, and the momentum's
That's
a different way.
that's
Who
what's
knows?
you
But
know
that's
the
sports. You know, you can't.
that's sports, no
You
doubt.
just
I'm
got.
not
You
taking a
just
shot
got to
at the
keep your
ref.
head
I'm
down.
not. Yeah, I'm not taking a shot at anybody. I'm just saying that they should be able to get it right. The other thing I go is like Smalley complains about. You know, some people argue and make the argument, oh, the games are too long. Then you got to look at this. And why, for the playoffs especially, the guy should be sitting next to us in the in the suite. The
Right.
replay guy should have an earpiece in his ear, looking at a
Yeah.
computer like we're looking at, in a room. These guys are going to the 10-inch screen in the blazing sun. Like, what are they even looking at? And it takes them, they got to walk across the field. It seems like, yeah, that would take that long, you know?
Well, I got to say, that was pretty funny in the box when that was happening, and Smalley was doing a play-by-play on it, because that's definitely another pet peeve of his. And saying we
Yes,
got all the
and he's right.
technology in the world. And he says, and now watch, the towel comes out, and just as he said it, the guy put the towel over the guy's head to block the glare,
Exactly.
you know, and we were
Right.
laughing. It was true. It does, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, look at the women's game, you know, the Northwestern Colorado game, the end of that game. The superstar for Northwestern, she's getting played in front. It's double overtime. The girls cross-checking her, you know, she's got some leverage on, and the girls wiggling, you know, to get a shot. And finally, she gets some space to shoot left-handed. As she shoots, the girl goes like down to her knees. When the girl goes down to her knees, her stick does touch her head. There's no question her stick touched her head. How hard it touched her head, I mean, you could see, you know, sometimes when you take a shot, you don't follow through all the way around your whole body. You shoot and
Right.
you stop like halfway. When she shot, she did kind of stop, but it did touch the girl's head. But now, the fact that the girl slipped down to the ground and was on her knees, is that a dangerous shot? Or you could say, well, if she was standing, she still would have hit her body. Would that be a call? You'd be calling every shot a dangerous
Yeah.
shot. So,
Yes.
so they let it go. Okay, so they didn't call it a dangerous shot, right? Then the other team got, you know, then Northwestern got fouled and was going to get an 8-meter shot, right? They challenge. I hear Scott Hiller and his wife, the head coach, saying, "You just played after that. You didn't. You know, we played for a few, whatever it was, however much time after that initial thing." So they go to the replay. The woman comes out. She gives it this, like, you know, I'm going to go to the replay. They go in. The 3 refs talk. They come back and they said, you know, they didn't see it. It's not indisputable that it's a dangerous shot.
Right.
So what happens?
Right.
Northwestern gets to shoot an 8-meter, and the girl puts it in, and they win the game. Now that's a tough way to lose for Colorado. That's what I'm saying. It's a game of inches. It's like you could just about do everything right and still lose. You know. So, I mean, it is what it is. You know. You gotta always try to maintain focus. Is the name of it in every sport. Whatever sport you're in, if you lose focus, and you lose focus because you get down on yourself because you make a bad play or whatever, that's when it starts to unravel. So the teams that could fight through that, you know, usually the teams that win. But I thought they were both really well played games. I felt bad that Duffy, you know, couldn't do his normal. I thought Petramala, they held him down pretty good. You know, they weren't going to let him get many shots. They weren't letting him get his hands free. I thought the Syracuse goalie started to make some pretty good saves. You know, they were pretty even teams, and it just was.
And let's talk about it. Bottom line, Joey Spallina stepped up. He had to
say, you know, you got to look at Syracuse. They're more of a, you know, that's that group of kids who've been starting since they're freshmen. You put Mikey Leo, you got Spallina, you got Roa, you got these guys have been together. They know this is their last hurrah, so it's
Right.
all or nothing, and they're playing like it. Dwan, so that's where experience comes in. That's where something that puts you over the top a little bit. And
Yeah, it's
and
almost like Carolina with the young guys. They're like kind of like where Syracuse was 2, 3 years ago.
yeah, I mean, look, I thought Carolina was maybe a year away. Could they have won it this year? With a healthy Duffy, maybe. They were hot. They got hot at times. But I think, next year is going to be their year. I think, they got pretty much
Yeah.
everybody coming back. They have some top recruits from what I
Right.
understand. They're going to be very dangerous. I mean, there's so many stacked teams that there were teams some good young teams this year. But right now for Syracuse, this is it for them. As far as I'm concerned, I look at it like, I don't want to say a rebuild without those guys, but when you have handed the ball to a guy who came out of high school as a superstar, and you handed him the ball from his first day on campus and said, "This is your
Right.
offense. Go do what you do best." And he has done best, and he's done a lot, and he's broke the record, and he's had a phenomenal 4 years there. But I don't think he'll be satisfied with anything he's done unless he can win this championship. He can feel
Right.
good about
Exactly.
the scoring and those kinds of things. But he went there to win a championship, and he wanted to bring them back to the top. And
Yeah.
they're right there.
Well,
They're
he
two
got it.
games away.
He got it. He got it done on Saturday, and Sunday came along down at Delaware, and we didn't make it down there, but somebody's FOMO kicked in
Yeah.
early.
Yeah, Smalls jumped in the car. He jumped right in the car with Mikey Leo Sr., and they got down to support Mike Ferrone, our friend, and to watch his son, Penn State. And that was a heck of a game, for a while. Penn State, that was a game, and again, now you got another guy, one of their best players, the guy's hurt, right? The big guy, Queen.
Right.
He gets
Yeah.
hurt in the game. So that's why I say, the best laid plans of mice and men. You got a game plan, and then your top guy goes out. Now you got to, it's next man up. That's what it is. And you can't start saying, well, we lost him, or else we would have, could have, this and that. You gotta be ready to roll. And they played their hearts out.
They did.
Princeton is just they're like a machine, they just keep coming at you, they got so many weapons. And, that particular day, Ryan Wadeau, my man Wadeau's son, Tucker Wade, he had some game, he had 4 goals. He's legit. I think the kid's a player, real good player.
To me, Princeton looks like the most complete team, don't you think? From back to front.
I mean, I don't think they played as well as they did against Cornell in that Ivy final, because that day it was a circus act. Everything they did went right,
Right.
But they played well because that Penn State team is tough. They got a lot of quick guys. They shoot the ball. The goalie, I think he set a record. His personal record for most saves.
Right.
That's the most saves he had in the game this year. That kid's a freshman. So they got people coming back. They're going to be tough again. But I mean, I'm not looking forward to next year because I think we got 3 real good games still to go. I hope these last 3 come down to 1-goal games like some of them have been. I like the excitement of that and see who's going to come through in the clutch. So if you're wondering of these 4 teams, Notre Dame's had a knack with that, but that Syracuse with their, with that senior heavy team and playing for their lives to go out of to bring Cuse back to the top, that's going to be that's a battle.
Well, the fourth game was Duke. Duke's emergence. After maybe not the strongest schedule and all of that, but now they're rolling along, and they basically took Georgetown out pretty easily.
No, I mean, look,
And,
Georgetown had a good
they're
season.
smart.
Yeah. Yeah, they got overpowered. Duke, they're clicking right now, and I have not heard anybody about their team banged up or anything. They seem more rested. They're going to be a tough out. I'm hoping for 2 1-goal games, maybe even a couple overtimes next weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
I
listen,
could see it,
that's
but
you could
I
certainly
I
see
don't
any of
see it.
the 4 teams to win.
Yeah, usually like when you get to the Final Four, there's always like one team you say, I give them the edge. They look a little better. I have listen, my picks prove I have no idea what I'm talking about with this stuff. especially when you give me a point spread on top of it. These games
Right,
are tough enough just to pick winners and losers right now
right,
without
yeah,
point
for sure.
spreads. Because these teams, this is like the first time I could really say that I think any one of the 4 teams could win it, which makes
Right,
it a
right.
lot of fun. If you're a fan, it makes it a lot of fun, and you should take it as fun. You don't have to be. Where is he, Mr. Chaminade? That he's got to be. Oh, they lost because this
Everything's
guy
got to
didn't
be
do
fun.
this.
He loves fun.
Yeah, yeah. He always really likes fun. Now all of a sudden he's sour. He's a sour patch. He's a sour patch
My
kid.
God. Wow.
Well, he did chime in there at one point when he wasn't paying attention as usual, and he said when we had Brendan on, and he said, "Oh, I was watching. I got a little bet on the game. I think he saw the game going south. The Knicks are down 13 now with a minute
Oh, wow.
28 in the
Okay.
third quarter. So maybe he's upset. Maybe he's bet the house on it. I don't know.
Right, maybe, possible. He should stick to his lacrosse picks. So, by the way,
This is the best part, Steven. This is the best part. He's complaining about people complaining, and instead of keep talking, he leaves.
yes,
So it shows you how much
you
he
had
sticks with things. What? Yeah,
you
I
had
him
him
crazy.
pegged on that.
I can
So,
make him
so
crazy.
let's do our picks. So, wow, this is. Let's do our picks for this weekend. At least the college games.
Mm-hmm.
You got Princeton is the favorite by a goal and a half against Duke. You know what? This is really tough. I'm going to take Duke only because it's that 1.5. I could see it being a 1-goal game. I could see it being that type of game.
Me too, but I just have a feeling Princeton is going to. I'm going with Princeton. I think they're on a roll. I think they weren't on all cylinders the other day and still won by what? They would have covered. They were more than 1.5.
They pulled away too. Yep, they pulled away.
I see maybe a similar game like that, So I'm going to go Princeton in that game.
Any other game, obviously, you don't have we don't have a New York spread, but it would end up being like 1.5 anyway. But we'll do it as pick'em. You got Cuse and Notre Dame. I mean, this is a game that's to me, I feel like Cuse could win because they have the elements to win a game like this. They can score, and they can win faceoffs. So, if you can convert, then you're in a situation. The thing why I think why Syracuse beat Carolina was I think their defense held up, particularly their D middies. They really played a good game, and
I think they play. Yeah, I think
that's
they
the
played
spot where they
well.
usually break down. If they break down, they're usually breaking down on the defensive end.
Right.
Particularly maybe the D middies, but they played a good game against a strong Carolina team, and can they do that against Notre Dame is the question.
Yeah, well, you took Syracuse.
I'm going to take Syracuse. I'm going to say they're going to pull it off because of the face-off guy.
I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think they're going to find a way to win. I think they're going to bring their right cleats for this game. And I saw a lot of athletes on that field. Not that Syracuse doesn't have athletes, but that team, they got some muscle to them.
Well, I think, and this is the thing with my pick, and I know we love everybody, and I do. I love Coach Wellner's defense is like stingy as hell. I just do think that Syracuse does have guys who can score, but
Yeah.
if Syracuse can't get ahead in that game, I think it's a big problem. I think you cannot play from behind against Notre Dame. I think they just keep coming athlete after athlete
Yeah.
at you. But that Mullen is a horse. He's something else. That kid.
Yeah, he's back next year too.
Oh man, he's tough.
Yeah, he definitely can change a game.
I don't know what farm they found that guy from, but he's
he
thick,
had
strong.
spurts. Yeah, he had spurts this year where he would go early, so he couldn't take the next one, and that hurt them. And he had a little spell of that in the Carolina game,
Right.
but he did it once or twice, I think. But I just think that I just think that on balance, watching both of them in person, and seeing on the field,
Yeah.
I think that Notre Dame is just. They seem to ratchet up their game now. I mean, I saw them during the year, and they were number one for a long part of it, and
Right.
all of that. But they seem to have ratcheted it up now for the playoffs, and I think they got experienced play. Listen, they're able to pull off this next weekend and win 2 games. They've won 3 out of the last 4
Right.
years. That's pretty remarkable.
It's unbelievable.
In today, when everybody says anybody could win it,
Right.
and there's so many good kids, and everybody's about the same, and you win 3 out of 4, you got to give Corrigan,
that takes
Wellner, you got to give those guys, the coaching staff, Wyjic, Wojo, you got to give them
Yeah.
credit.
You're saying to win one is remarkable. It's hard. There's a lot of good teams. A lot of things have to go your way. To win 3 out of 4, I mean that's dominance. But you could see why they have the dominance when you look at those kids and those athletes. If they can pull it off, it's like they just look big, strong, skilled, fast. I saw that one kid jetting down the field, cutting off a break, where Hopkins' kid had
flying.
like a little bit of a break. It looked like he was on a motorcycle. I was like, oh my God, look how
he
fast that
flew.
guy was. I was like, "Whoop." He just
Yeah.
booked it.
The younger Faison, obviously the older guy didn't
Yeah.
play this year, but the younger one, boy, that kid's good. He's playing well, but you could see his potential for being a really, really top guy. He's
Without
got
doubt.
shake, he can shoot, he sees the field. He's going to physically mature, and he's going to be a lot to
You think
handle.
about it, that's another thing. The other guy's playing football. He'd probably be their best
know.
midfielder.
Well, maybe
How
that other
long
kid,
has it been?
the other kid, Jeffries.
Yeah. Yes.
That guy, that kid, that's another athlete. I mean, that's the one I think maybe was flying down the field that you said.
Right.
Or maybe it was Christian Alakwa from Chaminade who ran track. Christian, he scored a goal in that game. He scored, Christian.
They had a lot of fast guys.
But the guy who was the most impressive was the transfer from Air Force.
Yeah,
he's older.
he's great.
He's a 5-year. Yago, I mean, he played
Yeah.
great.
He did.
And I just
did.
thought that they
You're almost talking me out of my pick. You're almost talking me out of my pick.
Don't
No.
go with me. I don't listen. Am I still in last place?
You're still in last place,
I didn't.
but
I had
not
a
as
decent
much.
week
Not
last
as
week.
much. I think
Yeah.
you're 2 games behind Smalley. I think the fans are in control. That's another reason. I'm sure the fans
Fans are pulling away.
If I go opposite of the fans, maybe I have a chance to tie them. They did a good, it didn't work out for us. Every one of us being under 50%, so that shows that's not very good.
Yeah, I know.
It
It's
just
hard
shows
with
you.
the spread. It is.
It is.
It's tough
It
with the spread.
It is. But, listen, that's the law of averages.
Like they bet with, don't bet over your head, or however that commercial used to be. Or they say,
Right.
don't bet with your heart, bet with your
Right.
head. Me, I tend to bet with my heart because I always, you know, I was on a lot of great teams. We were favorites most of the time, you know, but I like being an underdog too. And so I a lot of times bet a lot of, you know, this year my picks were with games when you'd say, this team's 7.5. I'm like, come on, 7.5. Come on, you got to be able to stay within 7, and then they get killed by 12, you know.
Right.
And I'm like, how bad do you have to be to get beat like this, you know? I guess I don't take into account the shot clock, you know, that
And
the
and
possessions.
the flow of these games, they can change.
And it,
Like,
it could snowball on you. Yeah,
Right.
it definitely can snowball when it starts to snowball.
it's hard to imagine it's going to end this weekend, you know, because it was so
Yeah,
exciting and it was
it's been a
early and the
great.
whole thing.
We didn't really talk much about the PLL. You know, we got next show. We got to give PLL more of a shout out
Yeah.
and review some of those games.
Yeah, we're gonna be going. We're gonna be going through all of the games all summer as we go, and I'm sure once the college season ends, we'll get some of these college coaches and different guys out there. Plus, we'll be at Cantiague to see a bunch of
Yeah,
people.
we didn't even get into about laws.
That's a whole other kettle of fish.
That's
I don't know.
that's a show in itself.
It's hard to it's hard to imagine that you know that happening. You know, thank God Smalley's not on this right now to talk
yeah.
about that, because who knows where he'd be going on his rants. You know, listen, Laws had tremendous success at 2 schools. He put Brown in the Final Four, which if Dylan Malloy doesn't get hurt, they could win a national championship. And goes to Virginia, has success, wins 2 national championships, I think, is in the Final Four 4 times, wins 3 ACC titles. I mean,
Might have won 3 in a row. If COVID
I don't even
didn't
know
hit.
what more what they would want from him. You know, they in fact, the craziest part is they started off slow. Okay, maybe the people was saying maybe it's, you know, time for a change when they came out slow, but then they hit a stride. And they were sort of like almost like the hottest team going into the tournament,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And you know, like, you know, anytime you can get beat, it's not like a given. You know, they got beat by a good Georgetown team.
But Steven, look at this. You got 3 out of the 4 teams in the Final Four are from the ACC.
Right.
And none of them won the ACC this year.
Right,
Virginia
right,
did, and the coach
right.
got fired.
Right. You know, and so you go back to, you know, Smalley with his, and it is, they're not happy, and the parents, they're not happy, everybody's not happy. What's the guy supposed to do? He's trying to, in the end of the day, if you want to fire him for the fact that you didn't get performance, I get it. That's certainly, people can take those, you know, daggers and go with that. But he's had success. And they got better. They got better. It's not like they got better this year. They didn't go down the tubes. They got better.
I don't know. There was a clearly there was some kind of push, and something was against them to not renew him. They just said they're not renewing him, and like sometimes the announcers, you'll hear them say, he's one of the good guys. Laws is a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He is.
And I think he really cares about his players. I do. As much as any coach out there, I think this guy really does care about his players. What's missing there, I don't know. And I don't think that kind of decision was made based on, a couple of people complaining or something like that. They must have felt there was some kind of energy that just wasn't right there. It was like bad mojo or something. I don't know. And him being the top of the ticket, so to speak, he takes the hit for it. Maybe, Kevin Cassis has been around a long time. He knows lacrosse. He's had success.
Was a head coach, right?
But many years. And, and played at the highest level. He's a Hall of Famer, but the chemistry maybe just was not there. Something was missing, and maybe on the other hand, then they're just so spoiled, because I mean, to think that a guy got fired after winning 2 national championships not very long ago.
And he was in the final. What did you forget that he wasn't he in the Final Four last year?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
it's like it's really, and then he comes back from the dead this year and
right,
wins the ACC tournament.
right.
It's just, I feel bad for him. You
Yeah, I do
know,
too. I mean, listen, he's a great coach. I'm sure, I'm sure once he regroups himself, when the carousel starts to go, because there will be, there probably will be other dominoes that fall, and he will get an opportunity, whether it's this year,
he
next
will.
year, whatever. He's going to
Yeah,
coach again,
he'll
and
land
and
on his
somebody's
feet.
gonna and somebody's gonna get a great coach.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get a really good coach
Yeah,
out of the
but
deal.
I've read some of the things, and there's different people opinions on why, and he didn't have Kerwin with him, or the guy Kerwin was the guy who helped that team win, and all those kind. Then blaming certain parents, and not one guy is calling that shot.
Yeah.
This was an accumulation of things. It's not like one person went and complained, and so they made a move. That's not happening. They don't even do that in high school or grade school,
Right.
let alone a Division I college team.
And I think laws would say this also, and this is another thing, like when somebody says that it's because of this guy or it's because of that guy. No, listen. These are teams. You have a coaching staff. That's a team within itself.
Yeah.
No coach is going to sit there. I guarantee you, any of these guys that win it, they're going to probably give a lot of credit to their staff that helps them win. So are they blaming him because they think that his staff was not as good or he's not as good, or you just don't win every year. That's just not it's just not the way it is.
Yeah, we don't know all those ins and outs, but there clearly was some, I don't want to call it a movement, but
Is
there was
Smalley, is it what Smalley said? Are they not having fun?
they're not having fun. It wasn't fun.
I think they looked like to be honest, they looked like they were having fun to me, especially at the end.
Yeah, listen, they were, they were riding high when they were winning those ACC games. I mean, that was not easy to do, and they pulled it off. You talk about pressure. They were middle of the season. Guys were like, "Oh boy, look at this! Virginia's a horror show," and they came back like that. I thought that he was going to be okay. I mean, even when they lost to Towson, like Towson is some stumble bums. Towson's
Right.
got players. They got good.
Yeah, they're good.
They're good.
Exactly.
You could happen. You could get
Yeah.
beat. And what did he lose? Didn't he lose by the 1 goal to Maryland? They lost to
Yes,
Maryland by a
overtime.
goal, I think.
But that's the
But-
game.
but
That
he-
was their turning point game.
Yeah, but he felt like that was, okay, we know we could play with anybody, let's go. And they rebounded, but like I said, I don't see anybody losing a job no matter what, but,
It's also not, look, they all do well. It's not professional football. These guys have families, their kids are in schools, this is a little bit life-changing for people.
no, it's
And,
not easy picking up and moving city to city if
Right.
you got kids and stuff.
Right,
That's-
exactly.
But
So-
if you become a coach in college sports, it's what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
I'm amazed when I've seen some of these assistants and stuff because they're talking about, well, who do you think will get it? And you look at some resume. Some of these guys have been like 3 years at this school, 2 years at this school, 1 year at this school, and he's got 4 kids. I'm like, how the hell do these guys do this?
You're right. It's
It's a
crazy.
different breed.
Yeah, it is.
They definitely got to have a love for the sport and a love for
Right.
the game and teaching, coaching, whatever. To me, coaching is also teaching, and I think that laws. Looks at himself as a teacher even more than a coach.
Yeah.
You know how he is, Stephen. We see he's like a spiritual type guy.
He is. He is. And
and a nice guy. So It's a bitter pill, I'm sure, for him to swallow, but I do think he's got that resilience that he'll say, if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. He's not gonna. I think he'll accept it and move on and find something and go start again. And
Do you
maybe
think?
great things.
Do you think? I know people talk about that. Like, do you think Virginia, like they say, is like a top 3 job? Would you say that's a top 3 job?
I can't answer that because I really don't know what these guys get paid. There may be some other schools that pay their guys more. They see. I don't know.
Well, when they say top 3, I think they're saying that as prestige or anything else.
No,
Like,
I would say definitely. I mean, I think, anytime you're in one of them AC, living down there, cost of living's less. It's nice. It's a nice life, a little slower pace, all of that, But what comes with that is the pressure of winning, right? I mean, that's the trade-off. You just don't go down there and you hang out and say, hey, I could go golfing tomorrow, You gotta put a lot of time in. The recruiting trail is tough. You're battling not only the other ACC schools, you're battling the Ivies, you're battling the Big Ten. Everybody, it's an arms race. It hasn't gotten to like basketball. Well, like how they're paying guys $2 million to come play for them.
No, but we all know the 3 conferences are basically Division I lacrosse at this point.
Yeah.
And there's 15. Those are basically in those conferences encompass 15 programs that are pretty much the top programs in the country.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that was the point. Like I said before, that Gary Gate was making. We got 3 out of 4 here. You know, and if we didn't knock one off, if we were in separate brackets, we might have had all 4.
Right.
If they didn't have to play each other. I mean, that could actually happen. Imagine if you had 4 teams in the tournament and they were on different, quarterfinal games, you could end up with 4 schools from the same conference. So
it could have
these
happened.
other schools. Yeah, that's why it's very tough to catch up to these schools at that point. It's always going to be one of these 4 or 5 schools. It seems. Richmond nearly broke through last year. They had a very good year this year. Cornell finally broke through after how many years? They hadn't won in 40 years or something, 40, and look at that program. It's a historic program. And look how tough it was for them to ever get back and win one, Exactly. And they got there when Timmy Goldstein was there. They played twice in the finals, right? And they lost both times.
Exactly.
But so it's it's an accomplishment, and that's why going back, coming full circle, we were talking about Joey Spallina. I for me personally, I don't think it's if he wins, great, it's the cherry on top. If he doesn't win, this is a team sport. I hope he doesn't feel devastated by it, like he wasn't able to do it, because not one guy ever does it.
No.
You could be a great leader, you could be a great player, you could be a lot of things, but give it your best shot, and let the chips fall where they may, because sports have a way of having great moments out of nowhere, and they have devastating moments for the team that loses, and people have to live with that, a kicked ball, a ball out of bounds, a play here, play there. All you could do is play the game and hope that the outcome is what you're looking for.
Well, I'm gonna go to a shout out. We only got our 2 shout outs, but my shout out's gonna be out to the 4 teams, wishing them the best of luck. Mm-hmm. We know many of the coaches, we know some of the players and some of the staffs. I'm wishing them all luck because we're not going to be there. So we're not making it down to see them. I'll probably.
This is the first time in how long, Stephen? How many was it? We've gone like the last.
Yeah, we've gone 2 or 3 in a row, right?
More than that, I think.
You've gone more. I've missed a few.
No, I haven't stayed. I haven't stayed for the finals. I come home.
Right.
I go for the Saturday, but I come home and watch the game on Monday. But
Right.
yeah, I think I've probably gone like 6 or 7 years in a row, maybe more.
Right.
And if I
Right.
missed one, probably like, I probably went to the Final Four maybe 10 out of the last 12 years.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I didn't make that many, but this one maybe because it's off the beaten path a little bit. I don't know, but I'll probably be down in Long Beach watching those games Saturday. Hopefully, if
yeah.
it's supposed to rain, I think up here. Hopefully, it's nice and the weather's good and gives everybody a good track and no slipping and we're treated to two tremendous games. Hopefully, like you said, one goal games.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give a shout out. Who am I going to give a shout out to? I'm still, I'm not down on the Flyers. I give a shout out to the Chaminade Flyers. I know they're hurting. They have lost 7 years in a row. They'll reevaluate. They'll recalibrate. Hopefully they can. I don't know. They have a lot coming back. Some of those. They
Yeah,
didn't think that
I
that
think there's a
J,
lot of
yeah,
bright spots.
yes, all I heard was that JV the year before wasn't so good. They don't know. They had a huge senior class. So these guys are going to really have to step up and hit the ground running,
Right.
the guys who are going to
Right.
be seniors. But they did have a bunch of them that
Contributed.
really, more than contributed. Yeah, they made them win games. And I
Yeah.
think that they can be tough. They're going to have to bone up, and I think they've learned some lessons from the season, and I think the coaches also learned some lessons from the season.
I agree. Smalley's harsh.
And
He was getting harsh.
oh yeah,
Rough.
he's angry. He's an angry
My
man.
God.
He's an angry man. All they got to do is have, like my shirt says, the Mamba mentality. You got to have
That's
the Mamba
it.
mentality.
Come back. That's right.
All right.
It's
So enjoy the
mental
games,
game.
everybody. Whoever's listening,
All
enjoy the
right.
games. Don't bet.